I was standing in the hallway holding a tray of drinks when I heard my wife laugh like she hadn't in years. Not with me anyway, not even close. It was low and smug and followed by Sean's voice saying, "He'll lose it. Guys like Dan always do." That was 5 days before Christmas. Her sister's voice piped up after. "He won't fight it. That's not who he is." And then Heather said it. My wife, my partner for near 18 years. She said, "He'll sign. He won't fight it. That's not who he is." They all laughed, just a little, not loud, not crazy, but it hit me like a crowbar to the chest. I stood there, half tilted, holding that tray like a waiter nobody saw, hearing them lay bets on how I'd fall apart when she handed me divorce papers, like it was a game. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. My name's Daniel. I'm 54 years old, HVAC tech for 26 years, born and raised in Illinois, still here. I married Heather when I was 36. She was 31. We didn't have kids. She said she wasn't ready. Always said it like that. Not yet. Maybe next year. Then one day, I guess she was ready. Just not with me. Sean used to be my fishing buddy. We'd hit Lake Shelbyville every April, camp out, drink beer, catch nothing, lie about it. He married Heather's younger sister, Liz. We all used to take trips together. Cabins, lake houses, tailgates. I thought I had a crew. Turns out I was just the punchline. I stood there listening to them, maybe 10 feet away, in my own house. My hands started to shake, but I didn't drop the tray. I just turned around and walked back into the kitchen like nothing happened. Poured the drinks, brought them out, smiled, played the part. I didn't say a word that night. Not during dinner, not during the movie, not even when Heather curled up next to me like nothing had changed. But everything had. That wasn't heartbreak. That wasn't even shock. That was the moment I stopped being her husband and started being her ghost. The next morning, she made coffee like normal, set her mug on the counter and said, "Trash day." No good morning, no kiss, just that. Like a reminder to the help. I'd forgotten the week before. She didn't yell or throw anything. Heather didn't operate like that. She just walked past me, muttered "hopeless," and shut the bedroom door like punctuation. Thing is, she'd been that way for a while. Years, really. She liked to joke at dinners, especially in front of her boss or church people, always the same punchline. Dan would be lost without me. They'd all laugh, and I'd smile like it didn't sting. What else was I supposed to do? Her voice would get this little tilt when she said it, light, teasing. But her eyes didn't match. Her eyes were dead serious. At first, I thought it was just marriage stuff. People rib each other. But then, it kept happening. Every time I brought up something I wanted to try, woodworking, night classes, even just joining a bowling league, she'd tilt her head and say, "You'd quit in 2 weeks," or "When would you even have time?" Always with that little smile, like she was helping me be realistic. I started pulling back. Quit mentioning new things. Stop suggesting trips. Hell, I even stopped picking what movie to watch. Just said, "Whatever you want." She didn't scream. That was the thing. She didn't have to. Her control was quiet, clean, surgical. I remember one Sunday at church, some couple we barely knew invited us to a barbecue. I said, "That could be fun." Heather smiled and said, "Dan doesn't do great with new people. He gets awkward, right in front of them." No hesitation. She wasn't being funny. She was being dominant, just wrapping it in charm. And those little comments added up. "Don't embarrass me. That's why I don't bring you to networking events. Try not to say anything weird tonight." At some point, I realized I was apologizing before I even opened my mouth. Like I had to brace for whatever hit was coming. Dinner plans? Figure it out for once. A question about her day? God, Dan. Not everything has to be a conversation. So I stopped asking. I became quieter, slower, smaller. I cleaned the kitchen how she liked. Took photos of the pantry after I stocked it, so she wouldn't accuse me of putting things randomly. I folded her sweaters the way her mom taught her. Sleeves in, not across. If I got it wrong, she'd refold them with this long, tight breath and say, "It's not hard." Then came the Christmas gala. She dragged me along like always, said it was important, said to wear the dark blue shirt because the others made me look tired. I kept my mouth shut, drove us there, smiled through her coworkers' small talk, drank the cheap wine they poured into those skinny glasses. Around 10, after her second round of whiskey sours, she leaned in real close and said, "You'd never make it out there alone. No lead up, no context, just that." I didn't flinch, just nodded, like she was probably right. Like I didn't have 26 years of crawling through crawl spaces and rooftops, paying every damn bill, and fixing every busted pipe in that house. She smiled when I didn't argue, like she'd scored some quiet win. Later that night, we were sitting at one of those rented banquet tables while some junior exec gave a speech. She was giggling over nothing, drunky and shiny with compliments from her boss. I said, just joking, maybe we ought to write something up, in case you ever walk like you always say. She tilted her head, smirked, and said, "Sure, Dan, get your lawyer." Then she laughed, loud enough that the woman across the table turned and smiled like it was some inside joke. I grabbed a cocktail napkin from the table. "All right, I will." I said it with a half laugh, just playing along. She watched as I scribbled on it, split the assets, defined who got what, said something about mutual support, no contest. It wasn't neat, it wasn't formal, but I wrote it like I meant it. Then I handed her the pen. She signed it, still laughing. "Look at you, Mr. Big Shot." Sloppy signature. Lipstick smudge on the edge. No idea what she was giving away. I folded it once, stuck it in my jacket pocket, and never mentioned it again. Next morning, I was up before her. She was hungover, groaning in bed. I went to the garage, pulled it out, and stared at it for a long time. It looked stupid. A napkin, a joke, but her words were there. Her handwriting, her signature, my initials. I called Levi. His wife Jessa works paralegal at a firm over in Decatur. She owed me. I'd fixed their furnace in the middle of January for half price when their kid was sick. I told her I needed it notarized, quietly, no copies, no questions. She didn't ask a single one. She just said, "Bring it in." That afternoon, I drove it over, got it notarized, sealed in a manila envelope, and drove it back home like I was carrying gold. I stuffed it deep into the old filing cabinet under piles of gas receipts and tax junk. She never went in there. Then I scanned it, made a PDF, sent it to a private email account Levi had set up for me years back when we were tinkering with online invoices and tax prep. I hadn't touched it in ages, but it still worked. I sent the file, saved a backup to a USB. Then I went out and bought a safe. Nothing big, just a little box with a dial lock, enough to hold a few papers. I put it under the bed. Inside a duffel bag, she thought had old work clothes in it. I didn't know why I was doing it, not fully. It wasn't rage, wasn't revenge. It was instinct. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew, deep in my gut, that if she ever tried to walk with both hands full, I'd need something solid to stand on. And now, I had it. After that, I stopped pushing back. I played along, cooked her favorite meals, asked about her day, listened like I cared about what her boss said during a marketing meeting I didn't understand. I poured her wine, rubbed her shoulders, even let her think I was softening. Like maybe I was just grateful she hadn't left yet. She bought it. Thing was, while she thought I was shrinking, I was actually watching. Not in a jealous, needy way, in a surgical way, cold, precise. First thing I started doing was logging her hours. If she said she was working late, I checked the time she left. When she came back, how long her drive usually was. I made mental notes at first. Then I started writing it down. Dates, times, her outfits, what perfume she wore, what excuse she gave. She started dressing different. Higher heels, tighter skirts, lipstick that only came out when I wasn't invited. I didn't say a word. I just opened a new folder on my laptop and labeled it Backups. Her texts. I found a way into her cloud account one night while she was asleep. Used her birthday as the password. Idiot never changed it. Synced it to an app Levi had shown me years back. He used it to track his kid's screen time. I used it to collect her conversations. There were hundreds. Most boring. Some brutal. One guy named Nate. Then a Jason. Then, of course, Sean. That one stung. But I stayed steady. Photos, screenshots, voicemails. That Valentine's Day hotel receipt she tried to play off as a client dinner. I snapped a pic and emailed it to myself before she even changed out of her heels. I wasn't angry. I was focused, locked in. Every time she lied, I nodded. Every time she rolled her eyes or muttered something under her breath, I smiled and said, "You're right." She started to let her guard down. Thought I'd folded. Thought she broke me for good. She even started kissing me again. Soft little drive-by kisses on the cheek when she left in the mornings. I let her believe the mask worked both ways. I backed up her calendar, her emails, caught a thread between her and her sister, planning a weekend spa trip that lined up a little too well with a hotel booking I'd already documented. I screen recorded the email, saved it in 3 different places. I wasn't planning revenge. Not then. I didn't care if she got hit by a bus or got promoted to CEO. I just didn't want to end up broke and humiliated, sitting in some lawyer's office without a leg to stand on. This wasn't about payback. It was about insurance, about being ready. I kept a burner flash drive in my tool chest, labeled it thermostat manuals. Had 3 gigs worth of documents on it, all dated, organized, labeled by person and place. I even added short notes, stuff only I would understand. Her voice on voicemail saying, "Don't wait up?" Saved. Photos of her and Sean from her phone's deleted album, pulled those too. Guess she forgot cloud backups, grabbed deleted files. She started taking trips more often, last-minute overnight conferences, client development weekends. I packed her bags, gassed up her car, watched her walk out the door smiling. Then I'd sit at the kitchen table and write everything down. What she said, what time she left, how long she was gone. Sometimes I'd even check the car mileage before and after. I wasn't sleeping much, but I was clear, sharper than I'd felt in years. The more I gathered, the more I realized how deep I was in, and how deep she thought I'd sunk. She truly believed I'd never leave, that I couldn't, that I was tethered to her, dead weight, useless without her. So I let her keep believing it. She wanted to be the hero of her own story, the one who left the boring, helpless husband, the one who found herself after years of dragging me behind her like some sad anchor. I didn't stop her. I just watched her build her own gallows, one smug lie at a time. One evening, a week before Christmas, she came home late again, said she was wrapping up a project, walked straight to the shower without even looking at me. Her laptop was open on the counter, screen glowing. Normally I'd wait. That night, I didn't. I walked over, looked down, and there it was. Her email, mid-conversation. The top one caught my eye right away. Sean. He's clueless. I'll file at Christmas. You have to come. I want you to see his face. My stomach went cold. Not hot. Not boiling rage. Just ice. Same guy I'd fished with every spring, side by side on the dock, sharing beer and stories. Same guy who'd been in my house a dozen times, pretending to be my friend while sneaking around with my wife. I stared at the screen for a good 30 seconds, maybe more. My hand didn't even shake. I moved the mouse, hit forward, and sent that message to myself. Then I deleted it. Then I opened the trash and deleted it again. Nothing sloppy, no panic, just business. When she came out of the shower, she was wrapped in a towel, humming. Asked if I'd mind running to the store for wine. I said sure, kissed her on the head, left like a damn robot. In the parking lot, I just sat in the truck, staring at the steering wheel, windshield fogging up, Christmas lights blinking from the gas station across the street. She thought she had it all figured out. She thought she could humiliate me in front of everyone. Her family, her sister, probably even him. Hand me papers between dessert and coffee. Let me crumble in public. Not this time. When I got home, she was on the couch, scrolling on her phone, probably texting him, smirking at something I'd never see. I asked, "Everything okay?" She said, "Fine," without looking up. I just nodded, sat beside her, turned on the TV, and watched some rerun of a home renovation show while she tapped away. Inside, I was already gone. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel betrayed. I felt focused, like someone had just called game time, and I knew every move I was about to make. Later that night in bed, she rolled over and whispered, "You're quiet. Just tired," I said. She smiled in the dark, thinking she'd won, that the dull, obedient man she'd built would stay put no matter what she did. But she had no idea. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between her breaths. I could hear the faint buzz of her phone lighting up again on the nightstand. I didn't even have to check. I already knew who it was. She thought she was going to break me over pie and turkey. She thought she was setting the stage for my humiliation. But I knew then, I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to let her walk straight into her own trap. Christmas Day came cold and gray, but inside our house it looked like something off a magazine cover. Heather had spent 3 days getting the table just right. Polished flatware, linen napkins tied with gold ribbon, name cards in cursive, pine cones and cranberries down the center like she was expecting a photo shoot. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans with little bits of bacon, the whole show. Cinnamon candles lit hours too early so the smell would hit you the second you walked in. Fake cozy, fake warm, fake perfect. Her parents sat across from me, her sister and Sean on my side, just to my left. He wouldn't make eye contact, kept reaching for the wine like it was his job. Her dad asked about work. I told him the truth. Slow, but manageable. Heather kept the smile glued to her face. Then, about halfway through the meal, turkey barely touched, she stood up. "I have a little gift for Dan," she said, voice light, like we were at a birthday party. I looked up. Her hand was already reaching into the drawer behind her. She pulled out a plain white envelope, walked over to my seat, smiled. I took it, opened it, divorce papers, signed, filed, stamped, dated last week. The silence around the table was instant, heavy. Her mom dropped her fork. Her sister froze. Sean looked like he wanted to crawl inside the mashed potatoes. Heather just stood there smiling like she'd pulled off a magic trick. I didn't flinch. I set the envelope down, reached into the inside pocket of my jacket, and pulled out a leather folder, placed it gently on the table. "You sure you want this today?" I asked. She smirked. "I think it's time." "All right," I said, sliding it across to her. She opened it, still wearing that smug, fake sympathy look she always used when she thought she was in control. Her smile dropped. She read the first page, then the second. She looked up. "What is this?" "You don't recognize it?" I asked. "You signed it. Last Christmas. Gala night. Remember the napkin? That wasn't real," she said, voice wobbling for the first time. "No," I said. "It was. I had it notarized. Next morning. Your handwriting, your terms, your signature." She flipped through the pages, faster now. Saw the financial splits, the spousal support cap, the house, mine, the cars, split. Her retirement, untouched. Mine, protected. She looked back at me, furious now. "I filed already, last week." I nodded. "Exactly. That makes your version binding. And by your version, all this," I tapped the folder, "goes into effect. You can't be serious." I looked her right in the eye. "You filed. You initiated. That means your terms apply. That's how you wrote it. That's what you signed. I just made it legal." Her dad cleared his throat. Her mom looked like she was going to pass out. Liz sat with her mouth open. "Sean?" He looked like he was going to puke. Heather stared at the folder, hands clenched. "You tricked me." "No," I said. "You handed me the knife. I just learned how to use it." She blinked, stunned. I stood up, walked over to the side table, and made myself a fresh plate. Turkey, stuffing, roll, extra gravy. Sat back down. Ate like I hadn't just dropped a grenade in the middle of her little holiday ambush. Nobody said a word. For a solid 5 minutes, the only sounds were forks clinking and the occasional awkward throat clear. Heather didn't sit back down. She stood in the corner, holding that folder like it was going to catch fire. "Dan," she started. I raised a hand without even looking up. "You said what you wanted to say. We're done here." She turned to her dad. "Tell him this isn't right." Her dad just shook his head. "You signed it, Heather? I remember. You laughed about it." She looked around the table, waiting for someone to come to her rescue. No one moved. I finished my food, stood up and said, "Anyone want pie?" Liz, bless her heart, smiled wide and said, "I'll take a slice." I cut 2, left her standing there in that designer dress, candles flickering behind her, perfect table untouched, and the whole thing burning down around her, one signed page at a time. I walked back to the counter, scooped another spoonful of potatoes, added a second roll, sat down and ate like it was just another Thursday. She started whispering to her dad, pointing at the pages. "It was a joke, Dad. A stupid drunk joke." He squinted, reading over her shoulder. "Then why's it notarized?" Her face went red. "Because he took it too far. He ambushed me. He followed the document," her dad said, slow and careful. "That's your signature." She turned to Sean like he might save her. He wouldn't even look up. Heather didn't say another word. Not to me, not to her parents, not to her sister. She left the room like she was gliding. Slow, stunned, arms tight across her chest. I kept eating. After dinner, everyone left in awkward little pairs. No hugs, no goodbyes, just coats, silence, and quick exits. She never came back to the bedroom that night. I heard her moving around the guest room, slamming drawers, zippers closing, plastic hangers clicking as she shoved clothes into a bag. Around midnight, I got up to grab a bottle of water, passed her in the hallway. She stopped, looked at me like I was the villain in a movie she didn't know she was starring in. Her lips moved like she wanted to say something. She didn't. She kept walking. Next morning, I came downstairs and found a note on the counter. Not even a note, just her name, scribbled like a receipt signature. The front door was open. Her car was gone. That was it. No tearful goodbye, no speech, no screaming fight, just silence, like a thief sneaking out of the scene of her own failure. As soon as I heard her car pull out of the driveway, I walked straight to the garage, grabbed my drill, and took every lock off the doors. Front, back, even the one on the basement that barely closed right, gone. I drove to the hardware store, bought new ones, changed all 3 before noon. Didn't rush, didn't shake, just moved through it like I was changing out an air filter. Second thing I did, called Levi. Told you one day I'd need that backup, I said. He didn't ask a thing, just said, "You want me to send the paperwork?" "Yeah, send it to her lawyer." "You know the one?" Didn't even have to say her name. He knew. I dropped the envelope with my own lawyer the next morning, signed everything clean and final, my terms, her words, her signature, filed, stamped, sealed. 2 days later, I got a voicemail. Her number. I almost didn't check it, but curiosity won. She said, "You didn't have to be cruel. That was it. No apology, no ownership, just that." Like I was supposed to feel bad for following instructions she wrote herself. I deleted it before she finished breathing. Turns out, the guy she bet on didn't want her once she lost the house. The health insurance, the weekend getaways on my dime. Liz finally left him. Her own sister. She wasn't built like me. She didn't play dumb. She didn't forgive. Her sister tried reaching out a week later. Texted once, called twice, left a voicemail about healing the family, blocked her. All of them. I was done. 3 weeks after everything finalized, I signed a lease on a small 2-bedroom in Springfield. Nothing fancy, but it had a garage and a backyard just big enough for a smoker. I bought one the first weekend I moved in. Learned how to make ribs low and slow. Took some trial and error, but eventually I figured out how to keep the heat steady and the bark crisp. Every Saturday, I'd wake up early, grab coffee from the place down the street, season the meat, get the smoker going, and just sit there. No expectations, no schedule, just quiet. One day, I ran into an old classmate from trade school, Melanie. She looked the same, maybe a little older, little tougher. We had lunch, then another one, then coffee. Nothing serious, no flirting, no games, just 2 people talking without hidden knives behind their backs. She asked questions and actually listened. I told her about HVAC work. She told me about managing a hardware store. We didn't text every day. We didn't talk about the future. We just existed, peacefully. I didn't need fireworks. I just needed quiet, and I finally had it. One morning, I was outside seasoning a new rack of ribs when Levi called. "You seen the news?" he asked, laughing. "What news?" "Heather's firm. Somebody leaked the divorce story." I didn't say anything, just kept rubbing in the dry rub. "Apparently," he went on, "her assistant sent it to HR after Heather blamed her for missing a deadline. Real petty stuff. But it hit the partners. I could picture it. Heather standing there all sharp and smug, trying to talk her way around the mess she made. Except this time, nobody was nodding along. She got passed over for a promotion. Again, the one she'd been eyeing for over a year. Gone. She'd told her sister back in spring it was a sure thing. Guess it wasn't. Couple weeks later, I heard Sean's wife finally left him. Took the kids, cleaned out the joint account, changed the locks while he was out golfing. Apparently, cheating with your best friend's wife at family barbecues ain't as charming as he thought. Word got around fast. Nobody wanted to be seen with him. He moved in with some buddy over in Peoria, started selling camping gear out of his garage. One of those fake outdoorsy Instagram pages, trying to look inspirational. Last I saw, he had 12 followers and a used tent for sale. Meanwhile, I was outside most mornings, cup of black coffee in hand, working on the old '79 Chevy I picked up from a guy in Litchfield. Rusted out, engine needed love, frame was solid. It was slow work, but it was mine. Some mornings I'd put on classic rock, pull the tarp off, and just stare at it for a while before touching anything. Other days, I'd lose 3 hours under the hood, come back inside with grease on my elbows and a grin on my face. Nobody was watching, nobody was keeping score, and that's what made it perfect. I didn't have to tiptoe, didn't have to guess what mood someone was in, or whether asking a question would get me a sigh and a lecture. Melanie came by sometimes, dropped off homemade salsa or banana bread. We'd sit on the porch, talk about dumb things like music and tool brands. Real simple. She never asked what happened with Heather. She didn't need to. People think payback has to be loud, explosive, some huge dramatic finale. But the real win? It's waking up every morning and not feeling dread in your chest. It's drinking coffee on your porch with no fear in your bones. I didn't scream, didn't slam a door, didn't beg. I just handed her the ending she wrote, with her own damn pen. The win was mine the second I stepped out of that house without flinching. And now, Now, I keep that folder in the safe under my bed. Not because I need it, I don't. It's a reminder, a quiet one. It reminds me of who I used to be, a guy begging for crumbs and smiling through it, and it reminds me how fast everything changed once I stopped hoping she'd fix what she broke, and decided to fix myself instead. What would you have done in Daniel's place? Play it cool or blow it up right away? Drop your answer in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories like this.